Special edition. The man himself, Dana Gould, is here. He's at Helium Comedy Club all weekend long. It's We Are Live with Chris Denman and Travis Sherrill. Dana, congratulations to you for being here. This is a big day for you.
It is. I can't believe it. Town named after an actual saint.
Wow.
St. Louis was the patron saint of low-slung brick buildings, apparently.
And dividing racial lines.
Yes, exactly.
That's how we design our streets.
It was the patron saint of institutional racism. Why Boston is still furiously jealous.
I got us in hockey and now this.
Yeah. Boston, the original name of Boston was, what are you doing here?
That was back whenever white people were mean to other white people too, right?
They still are. Boston is, I'm from Boston.
I was saying, did you grow up there?
Yeah, I did. And I remember I was in high school, I was an usher at the movie theater. That was my job in high school. And I remember I was a good student for whatever reason. And I said, hey, I'm going to be late tomorrow. I'm going to the Honor Society induction. And so I got to do that. And the guy, he just looked at me and he went, don't shit yourself. Yeah.
A sensitive, young, developing brain, Dana Gould.
Yeah,
oh my God.
And there's another story of typical like New England attitude. My friend Kevin Rooney is a really brilliant comedian and writer, and he's very close to Jay Leno. And at the time, you remember Dennis Miller had a talk show in the early 90s. Kevin was the head writer. Kevin invented the rant. I don't want to go off on a rant. That was Kevin Rooney.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't think that would be that he was that good. He came up with that. Feels like it's such a piece of just anything.
Well, Kevin is brilliant, and he really coalesced with Dennis's abilities, which are significant. So, long story short, Kevin is driving around L.A. with Jay Leno's dad, Ange, and he says, things are pretty good. You know, Jay's going to be the host of The Tonight Show. I'm the head writer of Dennis Miller Live, just two kids from Massachusetts. And Jay's dad goes, well, I just hope you kids don't get your hopes up. It's a tough business.
As they broken ground.
Yeah.
In an industry.
Yeah. No,
That is
doing okay. Hey, Dad, I landed on the moon. Oh, they don't land on the sun anymore?
That's on Black Mama shit.
I was going to say,
okay, you on Arsenio. That's cute.
Yeah.
tell you about your
about?
cousin
We
who
made
just
it.
got a promotion to assistant manager or something. You're like, how is that not?
My mother is white and does that same thing.
You have a white mom?
I don't want to brag.
Me too.
But she has to make everything equal, and this is what I'm going to tell you is not a bit. This is a true story.
Please keep it focused on Dana Gould for the special story, Gardner.
So I had this show on IFC, the Witness Protection Program of television networks, called Stand Against Evil. It was a horror comedy show that starred John McGinley. And I got picked up for a second season, so I was very excited. And we did 3, and I called my mom and I said, "Hey, Mom, they picked up my show. I'm going to do another season. This is huge. This is really big." Well, your sister has a new job. If any animal is killed on the roads in Connecticut, they call your sister. She has a van and a badge, and they call her. And she is the only one in her department that they will call to break up dog fights. I'm not lying. And I'm like, well, let me check myself.
Slow down.
Yeah. How do you break up a dog fight? Look, you're both good dogs. You're both good dogs. You're both good dogs.
I kind of want to hug you a little bit.
I've
Has
won.
it made you
I've
the
won.
man you are today?
It absolutely. It gave me the career I have today. So I'll tell you a weird. I tell you a weird, funny story, but this is neither the time nor the place.
Let's get into your tax history. Come on.
So speaking of this, Bobcat Goldthwait and I are very close friends, and we've known each other for a long time. But we live in LA, and you're busy. I'm writing a movie. He's writing a movie. I'm writing a movie, and so he's like, "We should hang out. Let's do some dates together, and that way we'll we'll be able to hang out.
Forced.
Okay.
Right. So we did this little tour, and it worked out great, and we developed a weird 2-man show. Where
Nice.
We go on stage together, and we both do our acts, but we do them in tandem. It's like we're conversing. It's like I know his inventory, he knows my inventory, and he'll say something that will lead me to say something, and literally like he'll step back and I'll step forward, he'll step forward and I'll step back, and then we have stuff that we do together.
I like that.
Oh, and you mix it in too.
Yeah,
I was
we
going to
mix it
say
together.
I like that.
it's not the
Sure.
bumping mics thing that like
No,
like
it's
it's
just
not
a-
even that. It's different than
Yeah,
that.
and it was all organic. We just
yeah.
So we're doing that. So we're in New York, and our next show is in Boston. So we're gonna drive up, and I go. Now my mother, excuse me, my mother now unfortunately has dementia, so she's in a nursing facility, and so I say to Bob, "Hey, I'm gonna probably drive separately tomorrow because I'm gonna stop off in Hopedale, which is the town I grew up in, and I'm gonna visit my mom." And he goes, what's up? And he goes, well, she has dementia. She's in a nursing home, so I'm gonna pop in and say hi. And Bob just goes, I'm not missing that.
Oh, you.
So we go. So we go to the nursing home, and it's just a typical family day. It's me, my mom, my dad, and Bobcat Goldthwait.
Have we seen any of Bobcat's movies recently?
exactly.
Do you know where this is going?
So my dad, give you a little snapshot of my father. I watched Gran Torino with my dad, which was like watching King Kong with a gorilla. It's like, yeah. What are you doing the next scene? I'm gonna take a pee. So we have a night, and it was a good day. You know, people who have that some days are good, some days are bad,
Right.
and you know. But she says to me, no, I love it here. I get up in the morning. I go down to breakfast. Barbara Grillo, who was her friend from the neighborhood growing up, she's here. And we get caught up. And then I come back to my room and I get squared away and everything's great. It's like, great. Visit's over. We're in the elevator leaving, me, Bob, and my father. And I go to my dad. I didn't know Barbara Grillo was here. That's great. That's perfect for Mom. My dad goes, Barbara Grillo's been dead for 10 years.
Oh, no.
And Bobcat goes, so she's not having breakfast with her. And which is funny to anybody, not to Gran Torino.
No.
And my dad did that take. Like, remember the T-Rex in Jurassic Park?
Sure
when
do.
saw the guy in the outhouse behind him?
Like, wait a minute.
And I really did. Like, Bob thought he just gave him the look, and we both thought like, no. And
You've opened the door,
and,
Bob.
yeah, and Bob said, like, I could see in his eyes, like, he's not one of mine. I can't do it. And then so he just laughed instead, and we all got along. But no, it really was like a terrifying
It's
moment.
amazing.
Yeah.
So the family growing up in there. So where did you cut your comedy? Where did you eat shit starting on comedy?
Oh, in Boston.
In Boston,
I
oh
went to UMass. And I did. My first set was 2 weeks out of high school.
Wow.
I was 17, and
Just a hulking Dana Gould,
just-
getting up there, confident, ripped out of your
I was.
mind.
Yeah, exactly. You have me right down.
Nailed it. Yeah.
No, I was just a gelatinous ball of need. Yeah, I meet people that knew me before I was 30, and I just apologize and walk away.
Do you look at your shoes? That's what I do when people ask me what I do for a living.
Oh yeah, I'm a clown.
So Boston, and then you had.
And then I moved to Boston, and that's where I met Bob, and we were all you know, me, Bob, a guy named Tom Kenny, who's now the voice of SpongeBob,
Yeah.
and our friend Dan Spencer, and Paul Kozlowski. We were this little group of, you know, we all like the same stuff.
And did you guys know each other before San Francisco? Or?
Well, no, we all met in Boston.
We all met in Boston,
and
and then we...
Then Bob moved to San Francisco. Danny
Okay.
and Tom and Paul moved to San Francisco, and then I moved out after. So
Okay. That is so cool.
We all moved down to L.A. And then you know, Paul, you know, Tom is still in L.A. Danny ended up working for Robin Williams for like 30 years.
That's right.
And then Paul is in New York. But yeah, that's how long we go back.
That's
and
crazy.
yeah, that's, you have to eat shit and bomb for a long time, and to figure out the difficulty about starting off as a comedian when you're 17, 18, 19 years old. We were talking about Eddie Murphy before we started taping, is you don't know who you are.
Right.
So how in the hell can you know what you're doing on stage?
Perspective. And,
And you just don't know who you are as a person, so you don't know who you are on stage, and you just try on different personalities like outfits. So it took a while. I know, like I remember, I didn't like gel into who I am comedically. It was like 1989.
Yeah.
Was most of that based off the company that you kept as far as when you start doing whatever you were working on?
Yeah.
They would go, Dana, I don't know about that.
Well, it was just like what would work and what would not work. Right. Kevin Rooney used to take me on the road to Middle for him. He gave me a lot of great advice. And then I moved to L.A. and right around 89, 90, at that point I was hanging out with like Ginny Garofalo, David Cross, Bob Odenkirk, Kathy Griffin, Ben Stiller, that whole sort of group. And that's when the, quote, alternative, unquote, comedy scene started. And what was great about that was that started because Ginny Garofalo was at the Improv trying out stuff. And Jim McCauley from The Tonight Show saw her and called her agent and said, like, they said, what do you about Ginny? He said, well, I saw her at the Improv and she was just nothing gelled. And she's like, yeah, I was trying out new stuff. That was the point of the Improv. And so we wanted a place to bomb, so we started doing shows in a bookstore called Big and Tall Books.
Sounds like a good store.
It was great. I miss it.
I think I'd enjoy that store.
Yeah. And the whole point was you couldn't do anything you'd done before. It had to be new.
I like that.
Very nice.
So you would write it that day.
I like
that. And that was the origin of having your notebook with you on stage. Because you had literally written it an hour before.
Does it feel weird kind of being at the forefront of that?
I don't know.
It's whatever.
I don't know people that weren't.
Your career.
So, but that was the origin of having your notebook with you. It later became a trope. I mean, like, this shows I'm a hipster. There's nothing wrong with memorizing your goddamn act. There's no shame in being able to do your job. But if you just wrote it an hour ago, I understand it. And so, but having to just pump out material like that really forced me to, know who you are comedically.
That's why I'm picturing a 20-year-old you in the middle of nowhere in the Northeast doing like a one-nighter somewhere, and just people just gawking at like what's happening here.
Oh yeah, it was grim. I remember one night, literally in I was in Vermont, and we performed on the ramp leading to the dance floor. And literally a drunk walked up to me, didn't
in the
heckle
middle.
me.
No separation.
Was closer to you, closer to me than I am to you.
Yeah.
And nobody, the bouncers just start. No, you can get him up. Yeah, but I mean Kenny Rogerson, who's a really brilliant comic from Boston, he used to. You go on stage in Boston, there are people in the back welding. There's 3 people in the front raping a dog. Don't make the dog laugh. These are Kenny Rogerson's jokes. These aren't mine.
No,
but
that's
it's a good snapshot of what Boston was like at that time.
Well, it certainly is. Travis, sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
it's just once I remember I was working in a club called Stitches, which is, they set the bar pretty high.
Oh, boy.
There was a woman in the front row, passed out drunk with 2 friends, and her friends got up and left and just left her there passed out drunk. And I was just performing, and at one point during my act she comes to and she just looks up at me, and she just looks up and she just goes, "You're an asshole." You have enough brain power to say one thing. That's your message to the world.
And they've been married for 34 blissful years.
She could have said something. All men are created equal in the eyes of God. It could have been something. It could have been something that meant something.
Damn.
We're all made of the same stuff. Something that would have helped you.
You're an asshole.
You're an asshole.
I'm sure she's went on to do some great things.
Yeah. That woman's name was Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Oh my God. Really pulled it together.
So am I. She got her act together.
Proud of her. The old girl's got it.
She still got 106. Still going to work.
How difficult was it to translate your stage humor into a writer's room when you stepped into a set like like The Simpsons? How was it a difficult transition,
Yes.
and how did you ultimately get over that hump?
Well, you have to obliterate it.
Wow.
You go into, especially The Simpsons, like everyone's got an ego,
Right,
because they're all great. They're all
very
great.
good at what it
Yeah, very, very good. But I was the only one that was famous. And,
So you're a little more of a target on your back.
Yeah, and I was also like, a lot of them were Harvard Lampoon guys, and then I came in as like a carnival worker. So it took a good 9 months.
Oh wow.
For me to learn the algorithms of the show, like the joke algorithms, and to like assure them, like, no, I'm not here to. I'm here to do this, because that happened at a time. We were talking about Eddie Murphy before, about how Eddie Murphy has not done anything in a long, long time, and he says, I have a family. He has 10 kids, I think, and he's like to be at home with his family.
Right.
Yeah.
And because if you're, especially with Eddie Murphy, here's a guy that's been famous since he was, famous like nobody's been famous.
Right.
Since 18, 19 years old.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So then to get to a point in your life where like, oh, these people really love me. They're sincere in what they say. I think that is important. I got on The Simpsons right at the point where I've been doing comedy for, a couple decades, 16 years, I think. And I was pretty well established, and I was also just about to get married. I just bought a house. And the idea of just being a normal human being was very appealing.
Right, yes.
And it's just like...
After being in the trenches?
Yeah, for a couple of years. And it was great for, it's like my wife had a big job, and we owned a house, and I'd get up in the morning, I'd kiss my wife goodbye, we'd both drive to our offices. I had an office, I had a parking space. I'd come home at night, we'd watch ER together. It was great. It's like, I was normal for a couple of years, and then we had kids, and then eventually I said, nah, this isn't
enough of that.
Well, eventually it's like, this isn't me. I need to go back to do what I'm doing. And then a couple years after that, it was like this. We got divorced because that wasn't me either.
Has that provided? I mean, without getting any too crazy with it, as far as details, being married to someone within an industry. I mean, I guess there's quite a bit of separation.
Well, she was.
She was high up executive at a. Sorry.
Yeah, she was the president of HBO. She had a good job, and she's great. I was texting with her this morning. My ex-wife, Sue Nagel. When she came to HBO, there was a pilot that they had made that they had passed on, and she took it out of the trash, basically, and brought home this VHS tape, or it might have been a DVD by that point. And she's like, "Watch this with me and tell me what you think." And so we watched it, and I said, "Well, I like it. It doesn't feel, XYZ." And she's like, "Yeah, but I think we should reshoot it and recast these roles and reshoot some of this. But I think that this could be a good show." And the people higher up had kind of passed on it, and they weren't interested. So she said, I instead of taking this money and making this thing that you want to make, I think we should reshoot part of this. And they were like, "Well, this is your first big play. It's a weird thing to say to a woman, your dick on the cutting board." Yeah. And she put all her, believed in herself, and they reshot this thing they had called Game of Thrones.
Unbelievable.
And that's why it's on television.
Unbelievable.
And the men who she proved wrong never forgave her for being right.
Wow.
And it was a thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure. It's just like, but no, she's she's brilliant, but she, is in there was a point, we were in the car, and I had written a really funny tweet that day.
I'm proud of you.
This is the most relatable thing
Are
ever.
you ready?
I am so excited.
Please.
Yes.
And here is my tweet.
Okay.
The superheroes that pose for photos in front of the Chinese theater is it a wet homeless guy dressed as Spider-Man or a regular guy dressed as wet homeless Spider-Man? And so we're in the car.
It's really
So we're in the car, and I go to my wife. I go like, "Hey, I wrote this tweet today. The superheroes that pose for photos in front of the Chinese theater," and then her phone lights up at the cradle, and it's M. Scorsese. and she's looking at me like, "Yeah, you should probably take the call." And then the call's over like, "You want me to finish the tweet?" So what?
I will say, that's the living embodiment of you're here with us, and she's doing whatever she's doing right now. That's kind of the same thing.
She's having dinner with, the letter M or whatever.
So is she still at HBO?
No, she now runs a company called Annapurna Pictures.
Got it. Okay, gotcha. I was going to say.
It's a big company. Yeah, it's
a pretty big company.
Yeah,
I was going to
her boss is Megan Ellison.
Megan Ellison.
Yeah. She does.
Okay, guys.
She runs a giant. Cool. No, she runs a, and we, she's great. We just literally people grow apart.
Of course. No, I can't imagine.
What was the wake-up moment like in the industry then for you? Because, we talked about this a little bit about as far as like when an artist, a comedian, writer gets into the industry, there are certain aspects of the industry they just don't anticipate. How can you? Of course, not being in it, but was there ever a moment for you as a comedian, as an actor, where you're just like, wow, that's the part of the industry I didn't expect to be hit with, or you wanted to avoid? Because most of the time, as an artist, you just want to do the work. You don't want to deal with the politics and everything else that comes along with it.
I had several. I think the twice I was packing. Well, one specifically, I was like literally like, buy a suitcase. You're going to New York. You're on SNL, and then I never heard the call again.
Wow.
And then it turns from what I heard, I was in the cast, and then the network said we like this guy more than him, and I was in the cast, and this guy went in, and I know the guy. He great.
Who was it?
Jim Brewer.
Never heard of him.
Great guy. I can't be mad. I know Jim. I like Jim a lot.
And he had a successful SNL run.
Right. And my, I had just met my wife, so, I got 3 kids out of the deal, so I'm not going to complain.
Right.
But you never know. You never know it's never done. And I'll tell you two good stories. The first time I was really close to SNL, me and 2 other guys were flown out from L.A. to Chicago to perform for Lauren and everybody.
All right.
And I went on and I will never have a set that good in my life again. It was just one of those things, like you move the building.
Walking on air.
Yeah, and it just boom, 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 cluster bomb.
Wow.
And then I went off. Second guy went on, did good. And then the third guy didn't even try, just kind of fucked around. And we're flying back in the middle row of the plane, the 3 of us. And I'm looking to my left and I'm looking to my right. And I'm thinking, Adam Sandler, Chris Rock, you guys will have your shot. This is about number 1. And so just don't get too close. Don't get too close. I don't want you to get burned by the intensity of my star. So years later, my wife is at HBO, and she goes to New York, and she goes to see Chris Rock in a play, and they're talking after, and she comes home and she goes, that story you tell about auditioning for Saturday Night Live with Chris Rock? I go, yeah. She goes, it's true. And I said, what? She goes, Chris told me the same exact story. Of course it's true. We're married. You don't believe me? You think I've been lying at dinner for 10 years?
Just holding on to this filthy lie.
Yeah, he made up this story, but whatever.
That's outstanding.
But we all have, my life's awesome. I'm not, that stuff. But it is the point of it all is, you just never know.
Right,
I mean,
right.
it's never personal.
Right.
And you're just not what they're looking for at that time. It does, I'll give you a great example. Jeb Bush would have been a pretty good president. Probably a better president than the president we have now.
Absolutely.
It's
a wild statement there, Dana.
It's not what they were looking for.
Right,
right. It's not what they were looking for. They were looking for something else.
How do you tell?
And it turned out great.
Dana, how do you tell somebody when they're 35 they head to New York to do a fellowship for Sesame Street?
Here you go again.
How do we tell that person who might be sitting in the studio across from you, how do we tell him to go on to the next thing and stop hanging out in St. Louis? How do we move him into the big picture? How do you advance from you get an opportunity? All stupid saying aside, he did a thing with Sesame Street, writing fellowship, got some really cool looks. How do you take it from you got that cool opportunity to, all right, where next, and where's that next big writing job?
Well, having been in the business as long as I have been, I can tell you it's hard to say no to that Sesame Street pussy. Let's not lie.
That's what we call a walk-off, Dana.
There's
that's
there's
fantastic.
like being in Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yep. Yes. Gap Band's a close second.
Yeah. Being George Clinton's roadie. And being an apprentice writer on a children's television show.
That's exactly what
Those
it
are
is.
the
That
three.
is just destroying Brooklyn.
The three legs of the hot pussy tricorn. I said the same advice I said to everything. Things lead to things.
Things lead to things.
Things
Stay
lead
in
to things.
things.
Just keep doing things.
Keep doing
Doesn't
things.
matter.
And
Do
then
this.
honestly, that's
Yeah.
What about the
truth.
guy?
Yeah.
What about? Okay, tell us
Just
this.
keep doing this stuff.
We're interviewing John Lovitz one time. We did like a live podcast, right? Great conversation. It was awesome. It would be like it's like a bar with a live podcast studio in it, right? So we're doing it. Crushed the interview. Had a blast. John opened up, and he's an interesting guy.
He's very interesting.
Yes, and it was great. And so we see the crowd, and we're kind of used to our stuff. I'm like, okay, usually it's this type of person that's going to come to our things. And there's like kind of like a deadhead looking guy in the back, probably in his early 60s, not our producer. And he's there, and he's like, I'm like, that's interesting. That guy hasn't interacted with anybody, and you just pay attention to stuff, right?
Sure, yeah.
And we go, and we're making
It's the quiet ones you gotta watch.
Yeah, that's right. And after John's dog shits all over the studio, he grabs it and heads out to his car. The guy goes on a beeline, hands John Lovitz like an 8-page script, handwritten script.
Oh.
John, I need you to take this. And John's like, okay. And we were interviewing him, and he was a little standoffish at first. Eventually, it warmed up. But is that the move? Did that guy? Do you think he's getting into the right things?
No, that's never the move.
I am just so happy that I saw it all happen.
See,
because that's an all-timer for me.
Goldthwait would get that a lot, because
Really?
he's a director, and we would be.
Well, and he's an eccentric people like him too.
Yeah,
right?
and we'd do meet and greet, and people would always come up and go, Bob, there's a movie that we're producing, and we've got some money from the National Weather Service and whatever. And then they go, you're the perfect director, and Bob would always go later. Yeah, of all the people that would be perfect for this, it just happens to be the guy that's in your town.
Those guys aren't exactly jumping from lunch to lunch in Beverly Hills, right?
Yeah, and by the way, if you are thinking of giving Bob directs the stuff that he writes.
Right.
And it doesn't matter if it's.
That's the whole point.
Yeah,
He
it's
gets
not about
to do
you.
his thing.
It's not about
you. Yeah, it's not about you. It's not about me.
Right.
I wrote a movie and they're looking for directors and they're like, would Bob do it? I'm like, no.
That's so good to know your place in that thing too, because I do find it interesting when people are like, hey, could you ask so and so for tickets? Absolutely not.
That's why we're friends.
Sure wouldn't.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
It's funny. I'm not a Springsteen fan. I know he's good.
Wait, you're from the New England area?
Yeah,
and
just
you're
don't.
not afraid. That is weird.
Well, he was always the favorite musician of the people in high school I hated.
I
like getting to the root of things.
But I understand that he's great.
Yeah.
And that I don't have. It just doesn't speak to me.
Right.
It's like it's like lobster. I know it's great. I like it.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd actually like to draw a line. I don't want to continue talking if you don't like. Wow,
but here's the deal. I'm friends with Bruce's sister, Pam, and I think one of the reasons we're friends is I've never ever in 25 years asked her a goddamn question about her brother.
That'll do. That'll do it.
So I saw that with literally Brad Pitt's brother. They're from Missouri. And the people he'll keep around him are not people they're going to say, "Can you get me a selfie with Brad?"
Yeah.
Like, it's interesting, and it's a very unique place to be too. So that normalcy that you can provide them is like, that's absolutely why they're friends with you.
Yeah. Why you should ask him to do it. No, that's why we're friends. I don't ask him to do shit.
I'm curious because you've had such people dork out over your career. I'm sure all the time when you go do press, do whatever.
Forrest Gumpy.
It's wild.
Yeah.
As far as being a part of some of the iconic, we've mentioned The Simpsons. We haven't even talked about Seinfeld. As far as in the moment, kind of piggybacking off of what Travis said, has there been such a time that you can grasp at what's going on at that moment, how big an opportunity you're inside of it?
No, it's not enough. It's the things that I do that are cool. There are I became when I was a kid. I'm really into horror movies and science fiction movies. That's kind of my jam.
I love how much you're into it too.
That's
so
my
great.
Football,
Right.
And when I was a kid, I was like, I just wanted to be an actor, and I just wanted to act in horror movies. Like, I didn't care about anything else.
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, you know what? I'll become. Then I got really into comedy, and I had an ability to do it. And then I thought, well, I'll become a really famous comedian, and I'll become so famous that I can write my own movies, and I'll write horror movies, and I'll be in them. It's like the most backwards-ass way of becoming a writer. It's like, I want to be a pastry chef. And if I'm elected to the U.S. Senate, they will have to let me bake anything I want. But over the years, I have, you in that business and you become friends. And like Greg Nicotero, who's the exec producer of The Walking Dead, and the exec producer of Creepshow, he's a really good friend of mine. I've known him for a couple, 20 years or something. And so when they were doing Creepshow, Greg's like, hey, here's 3 episodes. I want you to be in one. So, tell me which one you like. And I was like, I think we could do this one. It'd be really interesting. And so then I'm cast in it, and I'm on the set, and I'm fighting a monster on the set. And I'm like, yeah, this is exactly what I wanted to do.
This is happening.
Yeah, and by the way, it premiered on Halloween. Like, so this is going on now. Yeah, and, this is the stuff that I wanted to do. And
sharing that, just
sitting in a puddle of blood all day. But to me, it's I'm delighted. This is my jam. This is what I really like. And there was so that is one instance, and that just happened. It's like, this is what I wanted to do. This is exactly what I wanted to do.
Awesome.
And the other thing was we became friends with Paul Rubens. And we went to see him at a Groundlings show in LA.
Pee-wee was a character.
Yeah, he's just a character, Paul Rubens.
Isn't that wild?
Went to a show at the Groundlings, and then we were talking to him after, and then we're leaving, and we just hear him call down the street, "Bye, Dana. Bye, Sue." And we look back, and it's Paul Rubens. I'm like, God, so fucking weird.
That is so funny.
Yeah, and I still we're friends. I get emails from him. It's like,
that's awesome.
And it's just it's crazy to me.
Think about the world today now too. Like his scandal. Like when you look back on that, you're like,
yeah,
what
terrible thing.
Really? He should have been imprisoned.
I know. It's and it affected him deeply.
Of course it did. Yeah, and I'm sure he still works, but it's on top of the world.
He's beloved.
Yeah,
and deservedly so.
There's photos of me when I was 4 with a Pee-wee's hat on. Like that was one of my main Christmas presents. I remember that.
He's the greatest guy in the world.
Yeah,
he's so lovely. And we were in a movie together called Mystery Men.
Yeah,
and we were shooting in Orange, California, in this little cul-de-sac.
That's in the Orange Circle?
In the Orange Circle.
So my brother my sister-in-law grew up in Orange.
Oh, yeah?
So both of us have been out to Orange quite a bit. Yeah.
Behind
Beautiful
the Orange
area.
Curtain. Yeah, it's as I said, it's like you jumped the fence in L.A. and escaped into America.
It is the most pleasant city ever.
Yeah, but we were but we're there, and it was one of the first things that he did, kind of post scandal, and he was just kind of laying low, and he wasn't Pee-wee, and some kids found out that he was there, and he was kind of weird about it. He goes like, I have a bunch of fan mail I'm afraid to open because I don't want, it's like, you piece of shit. But every kid in the neighborhood found out that Pee-wee Herman was at this place, and they lined up, and he walked out, and there was just like this 3-block long line of kids that just wanted to meet him.
That's amazing.
And
automatic redemption.
Yeah, and it was great to see. It was like, you know, it was really a beautiful moment. It was like, and I was like, no, people love you. What the fuck?
Right. It's weird in retrospect to think about how big a deal was made about that. And you're like, you look back and you're like, did we really need to skewer the guy who helped kids for that long? Like,
it's just. But again, it's it's a big ugly world. It's what I've been, especially now. You know, it is such a weird time. I mean, it's 1969 again. You know, in terms of the cultural.
It's very weird. We talked about it before, even with Todd Phillips' most recent success with Joker. But he even made the comment about how he felt it would be difficult to make some of the comedies that he was, of course, famous for. And I really wanted to push back against that because I don't see that necessarily being the case. I know sensibilities have certainly changed, but I feel like
I think
funny is still works.
Funny. Yeah, and I disagree with him on that point. But it's like it's a fun thing to whine about. I guess.
Right.
Which is so strange.
But it's but what I lost the thread of what I was going to say, but like Mel, you know, people ask Mel Brooks, like, could you make Blazing Saddles today? He's like, I couldn't make it then.
Yeah, right.
You know, I just made it. Oh, but the point I was going to make, like, this is such a you know, it's like 1969 again, and it's a very tense,
very volatile,
you know, and the impeachment is going to crack the divide even wider. What'll be interesting is there will come a time when the president is no longer the president. And then we will go through the PTSD of the presidency, and that's going to be fun. Like Mitch McConnell with an eating disorder, Lindsey Graham waitressing in a titty bar. You know, it's like however you're working out your daddy issues. Drunken daddy's gone, but you're still left with his voice in your head.
Don Jr. can finally date a black guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Shout out to Angela Smith. Yeah, right. He's been wanting that to happen for so long. No, I find it interesting too. And again, whenever the statements like that are made, I was like, I just watched what I appreciate. I don't know if everybody in the room did, but like, pretty sure Chappelle's newest special, like, he did exactly what he wanted to do.
Absolutely.
And Dave Chappelle is still making the money he makes. He's still selling out arenas. He's doing all that
he
stuff.
just got the Mark Twain Award.
So that's what. So, and I loved the special personally, but I'm in that same vein. I was like, maybe we're just giving him too much. Maybe it's like you are a successful director and a super talented person. Maybe we're just giving him too much of a weight on his statement. Like, who cares what you say?
Well, it's also you know, when you are used to privilege, equality feels like oppression.
Yeah.
Is that a Travis Terrell quote?
No, that's. I mean, but
Quentin Tarantino was. They gave Quentin Tarantino shit because Sharon Tate, the movie's about Sharon Tate, but she doesn't have as much dialogue as Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio, something like that. And they asked him about that, and he just said, "I reject your premise. That's, like, I don't agree with your point." And the thing that he pointed out is, like, every movie he's ever made had a giant, crazy controversy at the time, and he just, it's just like, and now you can't even. What was the controversy about Pulp Fiction? It glorified violence, and it was too, you know,
right,
and it's just like, every time I release a movie, people think
gonna have
the Antichrist.
They're gonna do that. Yeah, and we need those people though. People like him are important. I feel like.
Yeah, and you know, it doesn't mean that those voices go away, and things change over time. You know, 10 years ago, the idea of legal marijuana and gay people getting married were anathema.
Whoa.
So stupid.
The world changes at its own speed,
right.
and you know, there's culture and there's politics, and they're linked, but they're not identical. And you know, the culture is moving along very quickly.
Right.
The current political climate is people that don't want equality because it feels like oppression, and people that are afraid of modernity, and literally, the country is changing, and and it always has changed, and it always will change, and that's the nature of systems.
Right.
They evolve. Evolution doesn't favor the strongest; it favors that which is the most adaptable to change.
Right.
And what you see in this presidency is literally saying, no, I'm going to keep out the world. I'm going to build a wall and keep it out.
Right.
Well, watch King Kong. You can tell me. Did the wall help?
Don't test Dana's knowledge.
The wall help. And you can't build a wall around the future. You know, it's going to come in, and that's what this is. I did jokes about Ronald Reagan, George Bush, Bill Clinton, George H.W. Bush. Obama was kind of boring, but we still got jokes about him.
Yeah.
It was jokes about Obama being boring.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that atrocious tan suit that he wore that just ruined my...
But Trump is the only president where I make jokes about him and you get death threats on Twitter.
Right.
And people
strange.
throw a beer at you on stage.
It's very strange, too. Have you experienced that a little
I had a
bit?
guy throw a beer at me on stage.
You're not...
Shut up.
You weren't kidding.
Yeah,
Okay.
in Portland.
Really?
Yes.
And they make good beer up
Yeah,
there.
fascist,
Their waste beer.
right-wing Portland, Oregon.
Portland's crazy off the left. That
It's
just super left.
But yeah, it's just
I
white,
want to watch the stage for you tonight.
White guys have had the run of the global table for 2,000 years.
Good run.
Did you think they were gonna go quietly?
That's a good They about a dynasty. They had a run. It's a pretty damn good run. They ain't leaving the table.
It's not over yet. It's not over yet.
I think they were just gonna shrug and
I was like,
what? You keep streaming that way, you could get a job on Fox.
That's my guy right there. See, creating opportunity for me.
But it's just
that's a very funny. But think we was gonna let this go easy? Yeah. Have you not seen our history? Do we do anything easy? Yeah. Oh hell no.
I feel like this is what. Have you seen Black Klansman?
Did you? No, I haven't seen.
I was gonna say the folks depicted in that they have meetings in their basement. I'm like, this is something they would talk about.
Yeah. Did Smaug release his? No, he's gonna hang on to it.
Career checklist.
From
I got
cold
Dana
dead
Gould. We got
hands.
Dana Gould saying Smaug on our podcast.
But to that point, I think the unique thing is, and I'm happy that comedy is going through this transition because I think at the end of the day, funny will win out. I think at the end of the day, when you're funny, your politics, it can't. If I sit down and watch your special or I come to your show, I'm gonna laugh at the shit. The shit's gonna really resonate with me. And I think, fortunately, it will weed out those who are just
pretenders,
just leaning on the old stereotypes, who are actually creating something that's unique and nuanced and fresh and something that will relate to everyone.
Yeah, and what's entertaining wins out, and you can go to Again, the Dave Chappelle thing is perfect. No one's stopping Dave Chappelle.
No one's stopping it, right.
All of these people that are saying they're being silenced, then why are you the only thing I hear? All I can hear is
an awful lot, buddy.
Yeah, I hear an awful lot of you saying you're being silenced.
From your very nice promoted Netflix special.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely absurd. Okay, so you stay super busy. Stand up, obviously, Helium all weekend long. Get out, support Dana, go see a show at Helium. It's always a good time.
It is a good time.
It really is. I was just there 2 nights ago, and it's a fun room, and I make fun of it being in a mall basement, but it's great. It really is a cool club.
We're just below the grill.
Do you want to?
Where the grease tray normally is. We're just below the drippings.
I feel
by
like
the way,
maybe
that's my favorite place because they teach you how to grill there.
Well, and my problem is Dana's kind of...
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I get to work.
Dana's talking down about the experience. I was going to ask if you wanted to split some potato skins or something later, man. That was a good time.
That I'll do. I don't have to cook them.
Now we're talking. I am curious. New projects. I know constantly creating TV, comedy. Where are we at, and what are we looking forward to?
So, I have a podcast, Dana Gould Hour, which is free and worth it. And I have I'm finishing a horror movie for the Sci-Fi Channel that we're gonna make. It's kind of a
Bobcat directing.
No, he's not interested. But
for Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah, it's a Christmas horror movie.
Oh, nice.
A little like. I'm in the vein of Krampus, but it doesn't have Krampus in it.
Oh, stop, Chris.
Krampus is about 80-something% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, Krampus is great. Do you not like Krampus?
Chris, no, I give Chris shit because he had to choose between 2 movies, Krampus or Creed, when it came out.
Oh,
and he was
I
like,
see.
I go,
handsome black lead. No, thank you. Adam Scott, here I come.
I was like, Keckner's in this. I'm going to check it out.
Yeah.
It's in our show's lore that I chose Krampus over that. But, I like the original. It felt right to me.
I'll tell an equally dumb story of myself.
Please.
Okay, so me and a bunch of my friends were going to the movies. But like the only people that you might know, I think Paul F. Tompkins was in this group. My friend Ken Daly, bunch of and it was the day of the Bronco chase, the OJ Bronco chase.
Gardner, are you listening?
And we're like,
he got hard.
Oh, yeah.
You said
Okay.
the OJ.
We're in the parking lot of the Cinerama Dome in L.A., which is now the ArcLight, and they go, should we stay and see how this turns out? And I'm like, guys, he's going to be dead at some point. We really need to see Wolf with Jack Nicholson.
Wait a second. Yeah.
We really need to go see Wolf with James Spader and Jack Nicholson.
He blew off the OJ chase.
I blew off the Bronco chase.
Would you, at that point, were you aware that you became a parody of yourself?
Yeah, it's true.
I can see your thought process. Look, in about 6 to 8 hours, he's probably going to kill himself. He's going to be shot.
He's going to be dead.
Yeah.
We're going to get the play-by-play later. Let's go see Wolf with Jack.
I don't want to shit on the point of you
God.
shitting on yourself. It is fresh on Rotten Tomatoes.
What?
So Wolf?
Is
it's a terrible movie.
60%.
Terrible movie.
It's rated fresh.
That is out.
The thing that I don't know,
That is beautiful.
I don't know if this was in the movie. I don't think it was in the movie, but I do remember somebody had a sign that said "Go Nordberg," and I was like, the fact they did that, like they heard about this, made the sign, got to the freeway. That was pretty amazing.
20-something years later, we've got OJ selfie videoing on Twitter. Hey, Twitter world, what's going on?
This is fantastic.
Did you see it? And you,
Yeah.
man, Wolf with Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
It's got to. I want
One of these things is a historic moment. Jack Nicholson's first horror movie since The Shining.
That's the podcast I want to listen to. People who went
Bad
and did
decisions.
other things while major
Yes.
historical
Oh
moments
my
were happening.
God. Can we workshop this? Let's make it happen. We've got a pitch for you, David.
Yeah.
We're going to take your idea and run with it. This is
that
going to
is
go wild.
President Kennedy's coming to Dallas. Honey, I really need to fix this go-kart for Junior.
No radios or TV. I need to be focused.
We really need to go see it with Six You Get Egg Roll with Doris Day.
You've been to a JFK rally. You've been to a mall. We're fine. We got things to do today.
Yeah, Bobby Kennedy speaking at the Ambassador. Honey, Dragnet's on. Yeah.
So your horror movie in the vein of Krampus.
Yeah, that's coming out, and I'm developing, getting ready to go out with another show that's sort of like a horror comedy.
Nice.
And then I'm getting ready to write a graphic novel that's kind of a darkly funny take on the apocalypse, but there are no zombies in it.
Oh, I don't think I'll watch it then.
It's just
I'll read it.
It's just what would really happen.
Just what would a comedic take on it.
Yeah, well, it's just based on the theory of like you take 8 people, and within 2 days you have 2 groups of 4 people that hate each other.
Yeah.
Welcome to America.
That's America right there.
Dana, what an absolute delight.
Thank you
We're
so
gonna
much
let
for
you
doing
get out
this.
of
Really
here.
appreciate
You've got
it.
more press to do. Helium Comedy Club all weekend long. Check out the podcast. Keep an eye out for all the great projects. Dana, so nice to have you.
Great to
Thank you
meet you.
so
Really
much,
nice
guys.
to meet
Really
you. This was
appreciate
really
it.
fun. This
Absolutely.
was really fun.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.